Hello and welcome to Produced By. Just quickly before we begin, if you enjoy the show, please consider supporting it by joining our Patreon. You can choose from a list of memberships and will receive some exciting rewards. Thank you, and back to the episode. Hello, Elena. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. So fun.
Can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, so hi everyone, my name is Elena. I am a producers and songwriters manager in the music industry, and I'm based in London, but I am from Spain, so that's basically me.
It's exciting to welcome someone from music industry, because the past few interviews I did mostly film industry or VFX. Don't want to say that those are not exciting, they are, but it's great to have something a bit different.
Of course, yeah, and I'm really happy to be here and share like what it is to be in the music industry full time. So, yeah.
So can we start with your background? You said you are from Spain, so what was it like growing up there?
Yes, of course. I mean, growing up here, I was really lucky and very fortunate to grow up in a really nice neighborhood in Madrid. And then when I finished high school, I moved to the UK to study at Middlesex popular music, my BA in popular music. And yeah, and then from there, I started getting more and more involved in little things related to the music industry, because my degree was purely music. It was just like production, songwriting, performance, everything related to that side of the industry. So yeah, I started like organizing different events. I started getting involved in like the different things that university put on together, and that led me into like graduating in 2020, which obviously everyone knows that it was a really bad year to graduate from university because of what happened. But right after that, I jumped into a music business master's, which got me the job that I am working at right now 2 years later, which is basically a role in a management company of producers and songwriters. So that's basically my role.
So
In
it
a
sounds,
nutshell, there's a
yeah.
lot of.
So it's not. It sounds. It's not singing.
No, I used to. I do it now in like the shower and as a hobby and to bother my neighbors and my
We all know.
yeah, I do it from time to time, to just for fun, but I don't do it professionally anymore. You know, one of the most frustrating things of working with really talented producers, artists and writers is that then you get home and you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna take this serious because everyone is so good. But yeah, no, but I still like to do it
And
sometimes.
so when you started studying music, did you already want to work like in this side, like management and business side, rather than being a singer?
No, I had no idea. I actually didn't have any idea of what I wanted to do. I came like when I was at high school, like I think 6 months before we had to choose what we were gonna do, and which university we were gonna go to. I didn't know what I wanted to do because I was studying biology, physics, chemistry, and like all of this like science
So
modules at
something
high
completely
school.
different.
Something completely different, yeah. Because I enjoyed it. I think it was fun. It was very hard. I didn't like maths, but the rest I loved it.
Mhm.
um, and yeah, but I didn't really want to. I didn't want to do it as a career, like for sure. Like I was like, yeah, no, this is not for me. But I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
So when my um when my like my the opportunity of coming to London came into place, I was like, oh, maybe this is my sign to do something
Mhm.
more creative. And I started looking into different universities, and my plan B as a creative career was fine arts and design, because I really love to do that. And I had music a bit on the back, as in like, nah, it doesn't give you a job. Music cannot give you a job. So I'm not going to do that. And it was my parents
Mhm.
themselves who told me, why do you say that if you really want to study it? Because like inside of me, I really wanted to do music.
Mhm.
But I was really like in like denial, like, no, this is not going to give you a job.
Yeah.
And it was my parents the ones who encouraged me to go for it and choose a degree that had something related to music. But because I didn't know if I wanted to do business or if I wanted to do music or what I wanted to do within the music industry, I chose a degree that was very like really varied, like really diverse. So that's why I ended up at Middlesex, because they offered me a very wide range of modules that I could choose from. So yeah,
Yeah, that
that
sounds
was
great that
basically
your parents
it.
were supportive, because I feel like it usually
Oh yeah.
is that parents want their kids to study these traditional industries that give you security of job. So it was really good. Your career could
Mm.
have been completely different.
No, definitely. And to be fair, nowadays nothing really gives you a job. No industry really
Mm.
secures you a job. There is nothing. I mean, unless you are in like in artificial intelligence, but not even doing that.
Mm.
So yeah. So they were just like, if you just try it, and if you don't like it, it's only going to be 3 years of your life.
Mhm.
Um, which is nothing when you're like 18 years old. Now I think about it, and back then was a world, like, what do you mean 3 years? I'm gonna be a functional adult by the time I finish that, and it's not true. You're definitely not a functional adult.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm really glad and thankful that my parents were really supportive on this.
And what was the reason for choosing London? Because I would imagine that there might be opportunities in Madrid as well, or even Spain in general.
Yeah, I mean the problem is that right now, yes, there is way more opportunities in Madrid to study contemporary music, or like a bit more like popular music of like nowadays the music industry and things like that. But when I graduated high school, the only two options that you had were either going and study jazz as a musician, or going and study classical music,
Mhm.
or study to be a teacher basically in like high school and primary school. So like there was no really an option like to study um something else. And I knew for sure I didn't want to be a musician, like a professional musician, and I knew for sure that I didn't want to be a teacher because I'm really bad. um but but yeah, I'm like, I was like, and then when this opportunity came up, I thought it was a really good opportunity to go to London, because that's kind of like the music capital in the world, basically.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah. And how did you feel like? Were you excited or were you scared to move to such a big city in different country?
Oh, I was so excited to get the hell out of here. I was like, I've always been really, really brave and like doing like things out of like the box and out of my comfort zone. And going to London, because I come from a town. It's true that there are loads of opportunities here, but not as many as a city that London can offer you. So I
Mhm.
was so excited. I was like, oh yeah, I'm leaving. The first year
Mm.
was amazing, and the second year starts getting harder, but it's
Yeah.
it's okay.
I was gonna say if it met your expectations, or how did you find it?
So I think so. I think London at first really like it was really like it was way bigger than I thought it would be, and it was a bit like I struggled a bit, especially on the second and third years to find my place,
Mhm.
because it's a very lonely city, especially for people who don't who were not born and raised there. Um, it's a city of like coming and going. Basically,
Mhm.
no one really stays forever there. So it was, especially and with the pandemic and everything, it was a matter of like seeing how you're staying, and people you had known for a long time are leaving and others are coming and then going. um but at first, yes, I think it's a very nice city if you're ready for it.
Mhm.
Basically, it's a
Yeah.
very demanding city, but yeah.
And can you tell us a bit more about the course you studied? Because as you said, it
Mhm.
was like a broader. So, what kind of subjects did you study, for example?
So I think it was a really broad module, like how is it, degree.
Mhm.
I think in my first year was very general, so we had a bit of an introduction to the music industry, which funny enough I didn't know it existed before I joined the course. I only discovered its existence when I came to London,
Surprise!
and I
Yeah.
completely fell in love.
Mm.
Yeah, no, so shocking to be fair. And then yeah, I had a bit of like performance songwriting, production, and then I focused more on the technical side of things. So I think in second and third year you had to choose like which path you wanted to follow, a bit more artistic or a bit more technical. And I decided to go through the technical one, which is spending hours and hours and hours in the studio and just recording, engineering and producing music. So that's what I did for a long time, which was super useful for me to be able to work with professional producers and songwriters after that. So yeah.
Mhm. And did you know that you wanted to go or focus on this side already when you entered the course, or did you kind of discover it along the course?
I completely let myself flow. I think no, I didn't even know that it was a thing until I got offered a job when I was doing my masters.
Mhm.
I was studying at University of Westminster, my master's in music business, and my module lead tutor, my tutor, came to me one day in one of our tutorials that we had, and she said, "There's this company, very small, that are looking for an assistant. It's a full-time job, but it's very basic. Like you're gonna be carrying coffees and stuff. I don't know if it's something that you would be interested in." And I was like, "That's how you're meant to start in the music
Mm.
industry, like in
You need
any
to
kind of
climb the
creative
ladder.
industries."
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's how you're gonna get your foot on the door. And I saw the roster of the producers they were working with, and I was like, "This is it. This is my golden opportunity. Even if I have
Mhm.
to bring coffees for a while, like what do you mean?" So yeah, I accepted the role, but I didn't know that producers and the producers have had managers at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Basically, I thought that was an artist thing,
Mhm.
but yeah.
It sounds similar to film industry, where you also, let's say, need to start on the bottom, making coffees, and then hope to climb your way up. So I didn't know, yeah,
Yes, no,
that
it's
works like
exactly
that.
the same. It is exactly the same. And to be fair, I'm really thankful that I started in a very small company. It's only I still work there, but it's only four of us, like two managers and head of A&R, and well, now I'm an A&R, but and like junior manager. But back in the day, was like just as an assistant,
Mhm.
and yeah, it was it was a very very tiny company, which gave me a lot of opportunities to be directly in touch with the higher ups in the company and the producers themselves and the songwriters themselves. And but yeah, it was a very very basic admin role in the
Mhm.
beginning.
Mhm.
um yeah.
And
Mhm.
to also to get an idea of the course, what were, for example, uh, course projects? Like, what did you do, if you remember, in the first year, at the end of the year, in the second, or even what was the final project in the third year?
I remember my last year, the project that I did in my last year of uni. We had to record. This was an interesting one because I don't know if it happened to you. When did you graduate in?
Uh, 2021. I graduated when the COVID happened.
Yeah, you're a pandemic graduate like I am. No,
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's true that it was a very challenging year. So for all the technical projects, they started being something, and then they turned into something else because we
Hmm.
didn't
Hmm.
have the the whole equipment to record it. So my last year's recording project was, I think, like 30 minutes of music or like 45 minutes of music, something like that. And it needed to be mixed in like 5.1, which is basically the sound system of the cinema. For those who know, but obviously
I had no idea
with the
what you
pandemic,
are talking about.
sorry. Yeah, basically 5. 5.1 is a system. Like instead of a stereo, which is just two speakers, 5.1 is like 5 different speakers.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, basically I didn't even have 2 speakers at all. So when the pandemic hit March 2020, I still hadn't submitted my project because it was due in May or something like that. So I had to literally finish all the recording in time before the pandemic. Like all the recordings that I needed to do in the studio, I did it like the Sunday or like the Saturday before they locked us up. So I had all the things, but I needed to mix them. So at the end, they changed it, and I mixed them in stereo, like normal, like headphones kind of thing. But it was very challenging. But I loved it. I learned so much from that project, and especially I'm a very social person, so I really enjoy spending time with people. And if that includes a studio, I'm in. So I recorded other people, and like I was kind of like the producer in the studio, and just being there, spending hours with the musicians, that was like my favorite part, I think.
Yeah. And how was
But
the
yeah.
project in the end? Did you manage well despite these conditions?
Yeah, yes, I think I did pretty well. I passed like with good grades. And yeah, now I look back and I think it was a very good opportunity for me to get like hands on the producer's world and to develop a fifth sense for certain elements in a mixed production that now I can take, and I can, when our producers send us demos and they ask for feedback, I can give them a bit more of a technical feedback, basically, because I know what I'm listening to.
Yep.
But yeah.
And I'm curious, this question comes from someone who doesn't know anything about music production, but can you say more about actually the process? Is it like you come to the studio and there's like, I don't know, screens, buttons, and you are pressing and something happens, or is it you with laptop, or what is it like?
It depends on your role inside of the room, but yes. So basically, I'm just gonna explain more or less what a normal date session is. But basically, from like the beginning of the process is when the manager meets an artist manager, label, or a publisher, and they flag with us an artist that they would like our producer to work with. So I don't know, like for example, let's put an example, very big, but like let me see, Dua Lipa is writing her next album and she wants to like collaborate with one of our producers. Then the relationship like between management is like built, or label, whatever, and then we set up a date in the calendar, and then the artist goes to the producer's studio. And once they get there, they just start writing, and it can be, there's 3 different types of writing sessions, in which the first type is when the artist is in the room, and they can be with a producer, they can be with other writers, they can be with no writers, just one producer, but several producers, or like maybe a top line. The difference between songwriter and top liner, they usually focus on the melody and the lyrics, and the songwriters are a bit of like everything, and they write the chords as well and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of combinations. The second type is when there's no artist in the room, but we know who we are writing for. So we, previous to the session, we have received a brief, which basically tells, like, outlines a project, like an artist or whatever, and then what they're looking for sound wise, sonic wise. So maybe they give you a reference of like, I need a song that sounds like this song by Ariana Grande mixed with Jack Harlow and mixed with like whatever other song. And then you go take you give that to the producers and the songwriters, and they get together and write specifically for that brief. And then there's like the third type, which is there's just no brief or no artist, and they just get together and they write something, and then it's our role, the managers or the publishers, to get the song and just think about an artist that could like the song and that could fit their project, and just send it to the team. So those are kind of like the 3 types. And then once they they're in the room. They basically just start writing. They divide the roles. They basically beforehand, before the session, we know who is going to be producing, we know who's going to be writing, and who's going to be top lining. Sometimes the lines are very thin, so they end up all getting rights, like publishing rights. For example, a producer can get publishing rights, which are the songwriting rights, basically, songwriter rights. And yeah, or they don't need to if they don't put any input in the song writing wise, but it's very rare that they don't get anything. But anyways, I'm getting around the question. But anyways, so yes, once the song is ready, it gets back to us, and then we decide what to do. If it has an artist already, we just wait for the feedback of the label or the artist manager or whoever is we're in touch with. See if they want to release it, or if they're not interested, or if they're just going to keep it for a bit and think about it. And then if it didn't have an artist, then that's where we just go and try and pitch it somewhere to whoever with this. But yeah,
That was
that's
a lot
basically
of
it.
information.
It's a lot of information. I tried to keep it chronologically, but it is a bit so yes.
No, it's just because I have pretty much zero knowledge of this process and this area, so I find it interesting, but just trying to make sense of it.
It's very interesting, I think, to see it from the outside when you don't have any idea of what's going on, and you have no idea how many times my grandmother has asked me, "But what do you do?" And I don't know what to tell her.
Yeah.
What
I
exactly
believe
is
you.
that you do?
And
Oh,
you
yeah.
mentioned a few times writing. So is it only writing of the music or the melody, or does it include lyrics as well, or it depends?
Everything, yes, exactly. A music as it sounds, like a song as it sounds. The writing of it is usually the chords, the melodies, and the lyrics, and then the producer comes in and adds all the elements that put those three together. So yeah.
And does that also happen that artist comes with lyrics already written and just to work on the music?
Yeah, definitely. That's happened a lot of times. That has to be obviously told before a session. Like, hey, we have this idea. We would love one of your producers to give it a go on the production side, because we think that their style of producing really could suit this type of song that we have already written. So then they are bringing as a producer, like just merely producer, and then sometimes they just have ideas and they just bring them to the session and they finish them up, basically. But yeah, it can happen.
And also something I'm curious about, is then producer quite a creative person? Because, for example, if I compare it to film industry, their producer is more like, business side or administrative, doing paperwork and stuff like this. So is it in music industry different, that he's actually creative?
So the producer is like super creative. It's a very creative role. And I think that's how the manager, this figure, like the person of the manager of producers came in, because this way they can focus merely on creating. I think I think the role of the producer in the music industry is really, really creative, and what we do as managers make their lives easier. Basically, we are the ones making the connections. We are the ones pitching the songs that don't have an artist. We are the ones like just doing everything but the music, and then obviously give them feedback. But that's just after it happens. But yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was surprised that it differs from the film industry so much. So it's cool. And
yeah, that's true.
and coming back to your education, then since the COVID happened and probably disrupted your plans, what were you about to do? I know you said you went to study a master's. So was it
Yes.
a result of it, or did you plan it even before?
So no, I didn't want to study a master's, because my plan was to dive in directly in the live music industry. I wanted to do, before the pandemic, I did a lot of stage management and production management and events management, and that's something that I really liked. So when the pandemic hit, I had to rethink everything, and because there was no festivals happening, no music, like no live music, no tours, no nothing.
Mhm.
So I had to really find an alternative to basically kill time, because I couldn't stop. I had to continue learning. And then when the pandemic hit in March, I spent the first lockdown in London, and I was really bored, and I started like just doing live streamings on Instagram in my Instagram account, just talking to my artist friends, just how they were doing and how they were coping with the pandemic and how their mental health was. And that kind of like scaled up to like the rest of the music industry. So I started bringing in guests for like about a year, like from like really really big people, like tour managers and production managers and things like that, to just runners, and we would just talk about what it was to be full-time, like working in the music industry. And that kind of like gave me a broad perspective of what was going on behind the scenes and other areas as well of the music industry. And it led me basically to go study a master's at music business management at University of Westminster, which I did online because there was obviously
Yeah,
nothing
yeah,
happening. So I did it online, study from my house in Spain, and then got the job and came back to London in 2021.
yeah. So was it a result of those interviews you did it? Maybe they advised you that it will be beneficial for the industry, or why did you actually decide for it?
The master's?
Mhm.
Oh, actually, it was my parents again.
Yeah.
So they were the ones that told me, you know what, I think you could like just kill time by studying a master's, and because everything is online, you can do it from home, and you can just continue your academic career, and just by the time that this finishes and the music industry opens up again,
Mhm.
then you will have a master's. And I was like, actually, that's not a bad idea. So that's why I did it.
Oh, it makes sense. It's actually pretty much I share the story because also when the COVID happened, I did masters as well because the film industry was shut, and I
Yeah,
thought, okay, once it reopens, I will come back. So it makes sense, yeah.
yeah,
It's cool.
exactly.
And
Exactly. I think it was.
masters was again music in general, or did you focus now since you had a better idea of what you want to do?
Mhm. Yes, I did focus a bit more in music business management. So they taught us like loads of different fields. So I studied from like copyright to A&R to artist development to like live production of like
Mhm.
concerts and tours and festivals and things like that. Sustainability as well. It was a very very like full on complete overview of the music industry. So I really liked it because I got to like learn so much that I could have gone anyway. And then I ended up going somewhere that I didn't even know it existed. So it's cool, I guess.
So is that something that you would recommend to someone who would want to pursue a career in similar industry?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, to be fair, it depends on like obviously which area. Good thing about masters is that especially the one that I did, is that it was very well connected, and they brought in loads of like really good guests.
Mhm.
And you had the chance of being like learning from people who are like doing like their like leaving the music industry every day. So
Mhm.
you get to hear their stories and their most updated version of what is going on in the music industry.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a very good opportunity. I really enjoyed it. Mm.
Mhm. That sounds good, yeah. And what was the final project here uh, in masters?
My final project was, it was a written one, and I did one. It was fun because It was a written essay, and I chose
Oh, it was
because it
fun
was
writing
what was
essay.
going on. I mean, to be fair, I'm a bit nerdy, so I enjoy research and writing and reading and stuff. And
Mhm.
people would not say the same, but I enjoy it. Um, but basically, I did it on live streaming versus live music.
Okay.
So the difference between like how was impacting at emerging levels of artists doing live gigs rather than like live streaming in order to build a fan base like
Mhm.
from the beginning. So yeah, I would have to like I'll see if I can find it again. It should be somewhere, but I want to read it again.
It actually sounds
Now that I've
interesting. Would it be like, for example, with
yeah
Spotify and streaming platforms like this?
no more like live streaming of concerts. That
Oh,
was
okay,
more
okay,
like
yeah,
the
yeah,
thing,
live.
like
Okay, okay.
how the live stream of concerts would affect the live, like how we would help build a fan base to emerging
Mhm.
level artists,
Yeah.
um, rather than going and like having actual like going to gigs and stuff. But yeah.
Mhm.
If you want to boost your online presence, check out our digital marketing agency called Trailblazed. You can also enroll in our Skillshare course called The 10 Tips on How to Succeed in Your Creative Career, which was inspired by the podcast. Lastly, make sure to subscribe to our weekly newsletter called Creative Spotlight to stay up to date with the show and more. Links are in the show notes. Thanks.
So, what were your next steps after masters?
So my next steps were like I literally started working as soon as I finished my dissertation in August 2021. I started in September 2021 to work at this management company. And yeah, and from there I basically started, as I told you before, I started as an assistant,
Mhm.
just like doing very admin basic things like scheduling sessions and invoicing and doing just like the most admin based thing ever. And then
Mhm.
I started getting a bit more involved in the creative side of things, so helping out, setting up sessions, discovering new artists, building relationships with other music within the music industry to hear what was going on, like the latest that's going on. And little by little, like my managers, they were really nice, and they started giving me more creative control over um, who we were doing sessions with and who we were putting forward to our producers to work with. And yeah, and pitching songs as well. I started doing a lot in the last few months. I started doing a lot with the K-pop market, which is huge
Mm.
now. um, and building relationships within the Latin American and Spanish music industries, which is amazing. It's very very fun, and it's a lot of work, but it's really cool. But yeah, yeah, that's how it basically developed.
Are you focusing on Latin America and Spanish market because of your background, or is that coincidence?
I think it makes it easier that I am like Spanish,
Mhm.
because obviously I understand their way of working, and I understand their language, and I like the music that they make. It makes it easier, but also because I'm really passionate about building a bridge between the English music industry. English or English speaking industry and the Latin American one, because there's so many opportunities right now over there for producers to build really really good careers and like a very good reputation. So yeah, my passion lies within building that bridge between
Mhm.
the UK and the Spanish speaking market.
Yeah. And you may have mentioned that, but how did you actually find the job, the first job? Because usually it's quite difficult to find the first one after you graduate.
It's really difficult. Yeah, I found it through my tutor at masters. So
Mhm.
we were just having a tutorial on my CV and stuff like that, and she was helping me put it together. And then she told me, you know what, I've heard that these guys are looking for an assistant. Maybe it would be something that you want to do just to get your foot on the door. And I was like, yes, I 100% I'll do it. So I did a couple of them, which were very informal because it was a very small company. So you didn't have to go through all of this like very boring and probably unnecessary processes of having 7 interviews before you
Yeah,
get the
yeah.
job. Because at the end of the day, this is a very face-to-face industry. It's a very personal, like it's a very personal relationship industry.
Mhm.
So especially at emerging, like at very, very ground levels in the music industry, you don't really need to demonstrate a high knowledge of like the area that you're getting into. You just need to have a few social skills and be a hard worker and demonstrate it, basically.
Yeah, bless
Sorry.
you.
So yeah, a couple of like interviews with them. I saw them, I think 2 or 3 times, 2 on Zoom and then once in person. Sorry.
Oh, bless
And 1 in
you.
person.
Mhm,
Thank you. But that was basically it. Yeah. And then I
mhm,
got the job because I love them. I love the guys. I love the producers they work with, and that's how it started. Yeah.
mhm. And again, trying to compare it to film industry, how much is music industry about connections and networking? If, for example, someone from outside who
It,
doesn't know anyone, is it challenging to get in?
it is more challenging to get in. Like it is not
Mhm,
impossible, but obviously loads of the roles that are happening, or like the most of the roles that are opening in the music industry, there are either roles that are not advertised, um, or roles that are already given. They're it's still advertised, but they're already given to someone else that had the connections and they know each other. It's an industry of like who you know and what do they think about you. It's a
yeah, yeah.
very like reputation based industry. um it doesn't mean that you need to know, obviously you need to know the right people, but you also need to be like, you also need to have a really good um like reputation. People need to think very good about you. And to be fair, like one of the things, I don't know if it happens in the film industry, I guess it happens, but because we work for people with people, it's not a robots industry, it's not a technical industry, it's all about people. You have to be kind and you have to be nice and you have to always like, you have to be as helpful as you can, and a very, very hard worker. So then people, that's what people had think about you.
Mhm,
And when something comes up, or when role that they think you would be good for, they will put you forward. um but it's not impossible, like to get through the door, especially at a ground level, because you need a few social skills and to demonstrate that you want to do the work, that you're passionate, and that you really want that, and
mhm.
demonstrate it. And then
Yeah,
once you're in, it's just a matter of like hanging out with people, going out a lot,
yeah.
and then making like building those like quality relationships, and just remember that like it's all about what people think about you, basically.
Yeah. I was about to ask you what piece of advice would you give, but it sounds like you shared some good advice. But is there something you want to add, whether
I
it's career or university related?
I think I think in this industry it's not as academic as it could be for other industries. I think it's a matter of just like be kind. I think one of the best pieces of advice that I ever received was which was through those series of Instagram lives that I did. It's from someone that said like it's nice to be nice, and it's true. It's
Hmm.
just nice to be nice, because there's so many like big heads, there's so many like really bad people in this industry, loads of egos. So if you just show a bit of humanity, and like you're just humble, and you're just willing to learn, and you're willing to recognize when you've done a mistake and apologize for it, and just treat people with kindness, like I think that's going to take you way long, like way further in
Yeah.
time than any degree or any masters or anything you do academic wise, basically.
Hmm. And are those recordings still available somewhere?
Yeah. I think they're still on Instagram.
Yeah.
I think they live around like Instagram.
No,
If someone
why
wants to
don't
go back
you
to them, though.
why don't you or why didn't you continue because of time?
That's a good question, but yes, mainly because of time. Because when the pandemic closed, when the pandemic kind of like finished, the whole music industry opened up again, and I started building connections. Like instead of like more digital, I started building them more physical. Going to lots of events, going to a lot of gigs, going to a lot of networking things, going to a lot of meetings. So I kind of like left it there. I think I should like do it again at
Start
some
again.
point. Everyone asks me. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think I should do it again. Let's start posting
Mm.
again. Now with the TikTok thing, it's like, oh, I am so lazy. Do I have to do TikTok? But yes, probably I will have to.
Yeah, I mean it could bring
But yeah,
quite a few views on TikTok. That is true.
yeah.
And are there any big names that you worked with and you can share?
Yeah, of course. I mean, in the roster that we work with, our guys have worked with really big names. They have been the ones developing the sound of Bastille, Bracken Bowman, Dua Lipa, Luis Capaldi. Who else? Who else? Well, lots of different people. James Arthur. They've worked with James Bay at some point. Well, Georgia Smith, Mahalia, Stormzy, Sugar Babes, like very big people.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes, sometimes I don't talk about who we work with because I don't directly work with them. I work with the producers.
Mhm.
But when I mention the names, they're like, everyone is like, "What do you mean? That's crazy."
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I directly with those artists.
And how does that happen? How do they choose to work with you, or how does it
It
start?
depends. Yeah, it depends if it's a long-term relationship. Is because with that artist that now is big is because they started from the beginning. So one of our roles as managers is to find talent like that's really good, but they're just missing the music. Find them from the beginning and collaborate with them.
Mhm.
And then if they start working with a really big artist after they become big, it's because we have been a really good salesman.
Mhm.
They're managers, and we build a relationship with the management or with the label or with a publisher, and they flagged that they're working on the next project in a sound that our producers could do really well. So that's what we basically approach them, and then
Mhm.
we set up the session, and then it's a matter of hoping that they write a very good thing and it comes out.
Mhm. Yeah. And does that happen that then other producers or artists approach you based on success of the work of the previous artist you worked with?
Yeah. Sometimes it happens a lot that we receive requests from managers or labels or publishers to like have sessions with our clients.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's at this level. It reaches a level that you are more excited, like when something comes to you, because you're like, oh, the work that I've put has kind of like rooted into a tree, and
Yeah.
now people are approaching us instead of us approaching people. But I think it's a thing of both ways. It just depends.
Hmm. Yeah. And as you said, trying to find talent. How do you actually do that? Is it just you listening to music and sounds good, so we may
Yeah.
approach him, or how does this work?
Yeah, there's a few different ways. So sometimes by having meetings with people scouts or people at like work at labels or people that work at publishers or other managers and other management companies, they flag with us, there's this new artist that I think you should listen to, or we are looking into signing this new project, what do you think about it? And then the other way is, there are two other ways. One of them is more traditional, the other one is a bit more modern. The more traditional one is going to gigs. So
Mhm.
I go to a lot of concerts, a lot of showcases, a lot of gigs around London of like emerging talent, to see if I can find someone that's like worth a session with our clients. And then the other more modern way is TikTok. So I spent a lot of time on TikTok looking for new artists or people that I think could be good to have a session with. But I prefer the more traditional way of going to concerts.
Yeah, I was gonna say it may be a bit dangerous on TikTok if you keep scrolling and then
Yeah.
algorithm starts showing you, I don't know, cat videos or whatever, and you spend hours.
Yeah. I actually have a couple of accounts, different accounts on TikTok. One for like puppies and the other one for work.
Yeah. And if you find someone that will be worth getting in touch with, are actually you the person who speaks with them or tries to pitch the services to work together?
Yeah, it depends. I usually pass it first through my manager. So I say, hey, I found this. What do you think about it? If they like it, then they're like, yeah, you can approach. That sounds good. Find out who the manager is, if they have one. Find out who they are signed with, if there's a label involved. And if no, just DM them. Like send them an email, send them a message, like whatever it's needed. But yeah.
And have you got a dream artist that you would want to work with or your company to work with?
Oh yeah, 100%. Rosalia.
Sorry, who is that?
Rosalia, 100%.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Rosalia.
I don't know her. I don't know who it is.
You know, it's
I will
fine.
need to do the
Rosalia
research
is,
after it.
you know her for sure, 100%. She's a Spanish artist. She's now really big. She's collaborated with Bad Bunny and like with J Balvin and like really, really big people.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think one of my dream sessions would be to put one of my clients with like to write with Rosalia. So yeah.
Is it because she's your favorite artist or why is that?
I think it's because I really admire her work and I admire the project and her team. I think I think she's become what she is right now, which she's massive at an international level for who she is and her work ethic and the work ethic of her of her team. I think is one of the most inspiring projects I've ever seen in the last few years. So yeah.
Okay, I will have a look afterwards. Maybe I will be ashamed that I said that I didn't know.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god!
Don't worry, I will send her to you. No, don't worry. You're probably like, I mean, there's so many artists out there that are so massive, and I probably don't know about. So
Yeah. So, and what would be your dream role, or what is the? Would you want to be producer, or what role would you want to do in the future?
I would love to become a producer manager and have my own company. That's kind of like my goal for the next 5 years or less than that. To have my own company and have my own clients, my own roster, and like that's my dream.
And I'm not sure if that's going to be correct, but I thought when I looked at your profile on LinkedIn, don't you have a company or something like that? Or am I wrong?
It's a project. I think it's a project that I built during the pandemic. That I put it in LinkedIn. I think as one like entry of like work that I've done in the last few years. I don't have my own company yet. I have the logo and I have the name, but I haven't set it up yet.
It's for the future.
But it's all about manifesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed. And so I guess you still need to kind of climb the ladder to get the experience and then to start it, or when you are thinking,
yeah, exactly. That's the idea. Get the contacts, get the connections, and meet as many people as I can, and build a really, really nice roster. And then once it's ready, then just continue doing my own thing. So yeah.
I have to ask you. You mentioned a roster a few times. I don't know what it is.
Roster is basically a catalog. So it's like your clients, your producers, yours, right? It's like when a manager has like different artists that work with, like he works with, that's kind of like the same thing. Roster is like catalog,
Okay, yeah.
like of your clients, all your clients.
Yeah. And does your company
Mhm.
focus on a specific genre, or it's broad, or how does it work with this?
It depends on you're usually focused on a genre because it's the music that you're usually passionate about. So the company I'm working with is two different managers with they work in two different genres. Like one of them works in the pop world, like anything pop rock, pop, K-pop, like anything pop, and then the other one works more in R&B, hip hop, soul, indie, like this kind of a world. So it's usually genre focused because that's where your contacts are. For example, I would never be able to have a producer. Well, I would be able to, but I would have to start from scratch to have a client that produces rock because I've never worked in the rock industry. I don't know how it works. I don't know any people there. So it would be a very challenging client. But yeah.
And is it also focused on a specific language, like English and Spanish?
It depends. It depends because nowadays, like, it's so easy to just collaborate with everyone knows English. So even if they're writing in Spanish, obviously they would have to be a songwriter, a top liner that knows Spanish in the room. But the producer can be like just English speaker and work with different. So it's all about the music, I guess. It's all about how good you are. Yeah.
And also, when we spoke before about when you discover a new talent and you try to pitch to them to work together, are you like in a position that you need to make a great pitch so that they choose you over others? Or are you in a position of you kind of giving them hope for the future that will help them to go higher, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's all about how convincing you are and how much you believe in the client that you have. Especially if they're in a developing stage. If it's a producer that hasn't had many songs out with other artists, they haven't worked with really big names, then obviously it's a lot of work of trust and belief in the music that they make, and help them climb the ladder little by little. If it's a more developed producer, then obviously the credits that they have speak by themselves. So it's easier to approach a bigger artist if the producer has already had many big cuts. But yeah.
And actually, do you have a favorite producer or someone who's your inspiration or kind of role model?
To be fair, there's a few that I really like. I really like the work of this, the producer of Rosalia, of this girl in the second album, and her second album. He's called El Guincho. He's incredible. He's really talented. There's others there's like legends like Max Martin or Ryan Tedder, and they're like the biggest producers in pop. Like Max Martin has produced from like Blinding Lights of The Weeknd to Britney Spears. They're really big. They're massive. It would be a dream to work with some of them. But there's so many at emerging levels as well that I'm really they really inspire me. Some of the producers that we work with at the roster that I'm working with right now, they are incredible. And yeah, I think it's I think there's so many of them that they are not given the credit that they deserve.
Yeah, I will also Google them afterwards because I don't know their names.
Yes, I'll send them to you.
Cool.
Of course.
As we will be approaching the end, are there some questions that I didn't ask or something that you would like to share?
No, it was very fun.
Yeah. But few final questions. Where can people follow you or get in touch with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn or Instagram. To be fair, sometimes it's even easier Instagram. In the music industry, we use it a lot. We use it even more than LinkedIn. Mhm.
Would
Yeah,
you even use
Instagram.
it
It's just literally my name.
to text to the artists on Instagram?
Yeah. To follow them, and we just DM them. Obviously, if it's a really big artist, then no, because they are not going to reach you.
Yeah.
They have so many requests. And if it's a manager, if it's a publisher, if it's a label person, A&R, like just DM them, because we are all there. Like we on
Mhm.
Instagram, we live
Yeah,
in Instagram.
that is true,
Sometimes
but
on TikTok, but most.
but I was gonna say that
Yeah.
I would be afraid that it gets lost among, I don't know, hundreds of other messages they must receive. But I guess you cannot text
It
to
depends on how many.
such as big stars here.
Yeah, it depends on who you are messaging. If it's an emerging artist in a very low level, then obviously they're gonna read it.
Mhm.
And if not, if it's an industry person, either LinkedIn or Instagram.
Mhm. Yeah. And then a final question, a bit deeper one, which is that if you had attention of the whole world, of all the people, and you could share some important message or some kind of wisdom, what would you tell them?
I think I'd go back to the same piece of advice that they gave me for the music industry. I think the world could use a bit more kindness and a
Mhm.
bit less egos.
Yeah.
I think you just have to, no matter what you have done, no matter what you have achieved, you have to keep humble, and you have to keep being kind to others, especially if they're starting in their careers, because everyone has been there, and you never know who that person is going to be in a few years. So you better
Yeah.
treat them right, because they might become your boss at some
Mhm.
point.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
or someone you need something from.
Mhm.
So yes.
Yeah, that sounds great. I agree. Cool. I think we can then finish it for today. And thank you very
Amazing.
much.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was a pleasure and great to find out more about music industry. As it was visible, I didn't know much and I learned quite a lot.
No, but that's good.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Elena, and wish you good luck in your career.
Thank you. Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app, get in touch to provide your feedback, or share any ideas for future guests. Thank you and see you soon.